Hey there everybody and welcome back to another Blender tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to do rigging in the fastest way possible. So I'm not going to be talking about IK chains or vertex groups or anything like this. You just have a character and you want to rig them as fast as possible. This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best place to build a beautiful website. So this is a character I found on Sketchfab. You might have a different character. What you're going to notice is that he's made out of multiple different components. That's how this person modeled it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these components and I'm going to join them together. So now this is a single mesh and we can now make a armature or a rig that we can use to repose this guy. Okay. So now that we have him as one mesh, I'm going to go into wireframe view. The reason for this is so that we can see through the mesh, and we're going to Shift A and add a armature. Okay. Now, if you haven't dealt with armatures before, here's basically the crash course. You can go into edit mode and object mode just like any mesh, and you can move the bone, you can hit E to extrude, or you can like Shift D, duplicate, and make more bones. So basically all we care about is extruding, duplicating, and moving. Okay? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this bone and kind of put it on the pelvis area. Now, we're not even going to be super accurate with this, right? We just need a rig that works. We don't need a rig that's anatomically accurate. So I'm going to add a bone, E to extrude, add another bone, E to extrude, add another bone. So now we have the abdomen chest area. Now I'm going to take one of these bones. I'm just going to Shift D to duplicate, rotate it, and now we're just doing the arm. So I'm just going to position one here until it gets to the elbow and one here. And if you wanted to get fancy, you can totally like add one for each finger. I'm just going to make a general one for the hand. Once we're happy with that, we can just duplicate this and we can rotate it by 180 degrees so it's facing the other side. And then we can just mirror it. Okay, nothing crazy. Finally, we could add another bone for the head, or one for the neck, one for the head. And I'm just going to take this and just move it a bit to the side so it's centered. And then finally, last thing we need to do, of course, is do the legs. So I'm just going to make one here, going down to the knee, extrude another one down to the ankle, and we're going to make one going horizontally for the foot. Okay? One tiny modification is I want this to be inside the mesh. So make sure to select your component and just move it so it's like inside the mesh for every part. So I'm going to take our section here and just kind of shift it over so it's inside our mesh. That looks pretty good. And then finally, after I adjust this foot bone, and you can see we're just kind of doing this very roughly, but it's still going to work. I'm just going to take this leg area, copy it, and rotate it by 180 degrees. Whoops. Put it here. And then let's see if we need to adjust it. No, we don't. So actually, we don't need to rotate it by 180 degrees. Okay, so long story short, you're going to make a rough armature just by extruding and duplicating. So we're actually almost done. The next step is we are going to select our mesh. Then we're going to shift-click and select the armature. So mesh, shift-click armature. Then you're going to hit Control-P for parenting. But we're not going to parent like we normally do. We're going to parent in a way that it's going to respect the armature. So in armature deform, just select with automatic weights. And what this means is it's going to do the rigging on its own. We don't need to do any extra work. Okay? So you can see now if we go to our object, you can see it now has an armature modifier. And this is the hint that our armature is now working and applied. So let's actually try messing with this. So what you can do is you can select your armature, and then instead of edit mode, which is where we kind of adjusted our bones, you're going to go to pose mode. Pose mode is where we can actually do our animation and our deformation. And you can see our geometry is now totally mapping to this armature deformation in every respect. So this was a fast way to rig, but now let's actually like give them a pose. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to kind of rotate the arm. Fine. I'm going to take this and kind of, how do I want to do this? I want to rotate it so he's kind of facing upwards like that. And you're going to see where I'm going with this in a second. I'm going to take the neck and kind of tilt it down so the head's kind of going down. And then maybe just a bit of rotation like this. And you can see he's hitting the dab. So very quickly, you can make your character dab or do different poses. That's right, this glorious tutorial is brought to you by our glorious sponsor, Squarespace. And if you haven't heard about Squarespace, what are you doing? It's the best and the fastest place to make a beautiful website out there. You don't need to know any HTML coding or anything like this. You just drag and drop assets and you can build your website very quickly. This is how I made mine, www.cgmatter.com. 3 features you might want to know about Squarespace before you sign up is, first of all, you get access to analytics for your website, so you know who is going to your website, demographic type information. 2, you can embed social media feeds directly in your website. So for me, I wouldn't want to redirect to Twitter. I want to keep people on my website, so I can embed that Twitter feed directly in there. And then third, and this is kind of the obvious one, but you can automatically move and crop elements so that you can build your website without any coding. So head over to squarespace.com and build a website, and when you're ready to take that thing live, you can use my link in the description to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain.